Ready?
Yeah.
You look ready.
Hello, welcome back to another At Week's End. It is Sunday night. That means it is time for the spoiler-filled look at everything going on in pop culture. We are on, I believe this is now day 19, I think, of Mark's internet being held hostage. So we're hoping to have that resolved pretty quickly. There appears there may be some light at the end of the tunnel because where he works does have internet now. So we're hoping that very soon he will have internet as well. But until then, you have myself and our guest that I'll bring on in just a second. But we'll get to all of that right after this. It is Brother John right there. He's right there.
Hello, Paul.
What's going
Hello,
on, Brother
chat.
John?
Oh, just getting by. Always happy to have a chance to hang out with you and talk.
Likewise.
Wish Mark was here and could chat with him as well, but I appreciate him letting me come in, kind of substitute in a little bit.
Absolutely. Before we get started, I don't want to forget to talk about our channel sponsor. It is Big Time Collectibles. They are really the best online retailer for retailer exclusives. They got all sorts of things going on. They're going to be big in the New York Comic Con coming up. I believe that's coming up this coming weekend. I believe New York Comic Con. So they have been selling some of their exclusives, very limited number, on their website. So go ahead and check them out. Going big into Transformers at NYCC. Also, don't forget, we have ABX Comics and Games. If you're in the Augusta area, make sure you stop by, say hello to Paul. And also, he is, I like to call Paul ABX and Paul, he is the comic community's comic shop. Lots of people from around the country actually use Paul, and he ships the books right out to them. Just does a fantastic job. And also, don't forget Justin's Comics. They also do cleaning and pressing, $10 per book, fast turnaround. They will send things on to CGC and CBCS for you. You just got to provide them with your numbers and use code We Are Legion to get a kind of a nice little discount there. So that's it. All of our PSAs have been done now. Let's head out to the chat. Let's see
Very
what we
well
have.
done on those commercials.
Thank you. Almost like I hear them every week.
Mm-hmm.
Let's Chris's saying hello, hooray, and then woohoo. Dope Comics, thank you for joining us. I'm second. Los Cruces came back to say hello again. Christina
Right.
Payne. Hello, Christina. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. Hey, yo, it's Nick's Kicks and Comics. What's going on, Nick? Thanks for joining us. Loki, we appreciate you as well. Christina, it is Pops. Pops, what's going on? Pops Attic. Let's go Legionnaires. I don't know if he has internet back or not yet. I know he posted some books, but I know he was last I knew he was still waiting for his internet to come back as well. So hopefully that'll come back for him soon. Trev, the shipping guru. Good evening, Paul. Good evening to you. Super Red Batman, Kyle, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. Frog Brawler, what's going on over here? Aggressively.
That's a great question, Frog Brawler. We'll figure it out.
Really is.
Go
It
along.
really is. Aggressively relaxing. I miss Mark, but this dynamic duo is pretty. Oh, that's so nice. We appreciate you too, AR.
Right on. Good looking out.
Exactly. Paul Morales, hello everybody. Thanks for joining us. We got Hunter Iggy, Legion of Comics. What's up? Beckerman, I'm here to end the week. You came into the right place.
That's right. And we're happy to have you.
Digger Jim.
Brother Jim.
Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us as well. Hearing good things about your mom, so that's good. Thanks. John was telling me. So Paul has the worst shirt on in the history of shirts. Let's go Yankees. Are you looking at Nick? Are you looking for a Subway series? Or are you looking for LA and New York? So I know the ratings gods are probably looking for LA and New York, because if it's just New York, they're only going to get one.
Right.
One
Time
major
zone
city.
to work with.
Exactly. So we have internet. Oh, good, nice. Okay, there you go.
Sweet.
100%. Hey, I know this guy. 100% agree with why John is the guy for the job. Thank you again, Paul. No, absolutely. So Hopefully you will have it back very, very soon. So
Indeed, I agree. I am
yep,
happy to be here, but I would be just as happy seeing your lovely face and brilliant mind here instead.
right. So let's get right into it. Let's start with the Joker 2. We talked last
Oh
week
yeah,
a while about it a lot. It did not get any, and not unexpectedly, it did not get any better this week for the Joker 2. Um, Made probably less than $7 million, which means that it may have fallen all the way to number 4, behind even Beetlejuice, which has been out for more than a month now. But the worst thing, and I know what they do for the most part, is they studios really kind of go by what the percentage fall is from week to week.
right.
Joker is predicted to fall 81% week over week, which is worse than the Marvels did. From a superhero standpoint, it is. So it is not looking good for Joker. It fell off on internationally as well. I think it's like around like 159 million, I think, worldwide now, and it the budget was 190, and that's not even including any
Marketing it.
advertising or
Yeah,
marketing exactly or any of that stuff. So,
yeah,
yeah, that's a
yeah,
new record drop, I believe. Yep.
yeah. And we talked about it last week. It's impossible to track these movies now in the environment that we're in post COVID with just, you can't just look at box office and go, you know, this is how trends work, because the trends are totally different, especially when this is a genre, these are all genre movies that they're doing now, or the TV shows. I I venture to guess, and I don't know how they track like the revenue stream side of it, but I venture to guess just from the buzz and the word of mouth that when this hits streaming, it's gonna it's
Yeah.
gonna have a new life. There's gonna be so much curiosity factor that there's people that are not curious enough to spend money and go to the theater and watch it. But if it's on a streaming service they already have, it's gonna get eyes. When it first drops, it's gonna get a lot of eyes. Um, so and we're taking these genre movies and we're just kind of calling them superhero movies. There's
Hmm.
nothing superhero about that movie.
Right. Right. Right.
you know, it's just not. And we'll talk about this a little bit more later. I think, at least from my perspective, with the Penguin, and even somewhat with Absolute Batman. This is a lot of branding. I feel like
Hmm.
this is a lot of branding that is happening here, but the stories are not particularly locked in to those particular characters, or they're not, they're just pulling certain things. And I think the Joker's the same way. We talked about it last week. You know,
Right. I
it's
haven't seen it, but I read more about it. I guess the ending is kind of divisive, from what I understand.
right.
So, um, uh, funny, I was seeing some.
Yeah,
I was
I
reading.
haven't.
I was watching. I don't know who it was, but they actually had. They showed the video of Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga, who was there at like one of the premieres, and they were pretty much showing how you couldn't hear what he was saying, but it damn sure looked like Joaquin Phoenix was saying to Lady Gaga, "This is terrible."
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
Well, like I read something too that they like cut a boatload of her. Like she had shot like twice as much, different scenes, not just footage, but different scenes that are not actually just don't show up in the film. And I haven't, like I said, I haven't seen it, but I would think she's a pretty integral part of the story. So I wouldn't think you would cut her down that much, but I don't know.
Did anybody see it? Yeah, some people have seen it. I know,
A
but
few
yeah,
here and there, I think. Yeah,
exactly.
it's
Just,
I don't know.
just,
I
just
think
circling back, Nick is looking for. It'll be ball busting for me if the Mets make it. And AR has something to say about that. He wants to let's go Dodgers. Again, I think the ratings people want the Dodgers because then you have the two largest markets. So in there. But anyway, Mark saying he still wants to go see it on the big screen. Not sure if we'll be able to make it. Yeah, you may not be able to because um, it may be one of those things where there's one showing a day, before it heads up into streaming. The problem with streaming is, I mean, it's already been announced, which is not unusual. I don't want to say this is because of the movie, but it's already
Right.
been
No, they
announced
schedule and plan that stuff out.
it's already been announced for physical media, when it's coming out and everything. So,
Yeah.
do you remember? I mean, it used to be, but it was a much different landscape then. It used to be that you'd have the movie, and then maybe like 4 or 5 months after the movie came out, it would be on like HBO. Again, this was before the big streamers, and then it would be
Right.
another like 4 or 5 months after that you would be able to buy it on physical media. So it would be sometimes like 9 months to a year after they came out that you would. Now it seems that you can buy most of these movies within like a month and a half or 2 months after they come out. In some cases.
Yeah, with all the streamers, it's almost like they reverse it now. They'll do they'll do like a theatrical release, and then they'll a couple months later release it on physical media, and give that maybe a month or two to be the way you consume it before they even let it go to a streamer.
Right.
I guess trying to make their money, as best way they can on the different outlets. But it's almost reversed. But yeah, back in the day, it used to be theater, then HBO or Cinemax or whatever, and you could catch it, and then eventually it would, a year later or whatever.
Yeah, and now they kind of throw they throw like Amazon and whatever a bone where you can
Right.
buy it from them for like 2 weeks before you can actually buy the physical media if you wanted to.
I remember going to the theater and seeing Tombstone, and having to wait a year and a half before I could get that VHS.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, a year and a half? That's crazy.
Yep, absolutely. Pop says apparently nobody understands Joker 2. I read it's supposed to be fantastic. Audiences disagree.
Yeah, there are those outliers out there, the people that say, "Oh, you just didn't get it. You just don't understand it," and that might be true. Maybe it's working on a deeper level than a lot of people can comprehend. I don't know, but I still think calling it the Joker is, like I said, I think it helped with the first one because it attached some name brand to the movie and to the story that brought in some curiosity, and then I think it hurt for the second one. I think when you go to the second one and you go, okay, we're going to bring in Harley, that feels like a stunt, and we're going to make it a musical that feels like a stunt. And it just felt like people, I think, were just like turned off from the get-go.
Taylor, thanks for joining us. So AR says he really disliked the first Joker, but the complaints about this one make me really interested to see it. You do almost, it's kind of like, okay, it's almost like a car accident. Like, people talk about it. You want to see what all the fuss is about. So
I didn't see the first one, and I didn't see the second one. I didn't see the first one because it just didn't feel like something it just didn't feel like it was for me, and that's fine. It just wasn't my area of enjoyment. and I also, there's some of my, like I've told before, the Joker should be a mystery. I don't need any backstory to know why he turned out the way he is. That's part of the allure for me, is that we know nothing. But this second one coming out, and people just, now it's made me curious that, am I going to go watch the darn first one? Are they going to make me go watch the first one? Just because they've, so.
We had, it's funny you mentioned that because in one of our deep dives we had done about Joker Year One, we had said it almost kind of, the Joker is just chaos. To try to bring some sort of order as to how he got to where he is, almost is the antithesis of the character almost.
Right.
So, do you really want to know, or is he just, he's just chaos and, pure chaos?
Also, if Batman could figure out a root cause for how he became and how he is the way he is, he would have been, it would have been done a long time ago. Exactly. Once he knows that root cause and he can play on that, and that's done. But the fact that he can't figure everything out, he doesn't know, this dude's just whacked, and keeps coming back and nothing seems to affect him. That's part of the charm. But, this movie is completely separate from that. It's not a part of the regular universe and that kind of thing. So, I think I think Fields wanted to go in a certain direction with it. And like I said, I think the movie could have been done perfectly fine without the face paint and the name Joker. But
Mhm.
I think figuring out what to call it, you can't call it Falling Down Again. You can't call it the the King of Comedy Part 2 or whatever.
Exactly. Right.
But there's a lot of pieces that he took from other things and built something different, slightly and new. So I guess he just thought if I can put a brand on it,
Right.
maybe that'll help it be more defined. But
Joseph Michael, thanks for joining us. Joker 2 was meh and so disappointing. My cousin and I just went and watched Transformers 1 again. Seen it 6 times now. Terrifier 3 is overtaking Joker 2. It was the #1 movie this weekend, Terrifier 3. One crap feast takes over for the other. So I didn't see
well,
the first 2 Terrifiers. I probably won't see the third one. I know it's kind of a Christmas themed thing. That's pretty much as much as I know.
that's how
Um,
bad that is, though. I don't even know what that is.
right,
I didn't
exactly.
know. There's 3 of them.
Well, I know
And
that.
I have never heard of it and have no idea what that is. And it overtook Joker 2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it has
So
some sort of a clown in it too. It's not really Pennywise or anything, but I haven't, like I said, I haven't seen them. I just know from seeing like advertisements for them or whatever. So
right on.
I have not heard if Hellboy, the new Hellboy, is getting a physical release. Has that actually been released at? That hasn't been released at theaters yet, or maybe that's just streaming.
It's
Um,
just streaming. Yeah.
right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Taylor says, "I'm your Huckleberry, John."
Oh, thanks, buddy.
I don't want them to stop being weird artists to turn with some of these property. Let's get Jodorowsky's Challenges of the Unknown. Jodorowsky's um, Challenge of the Unknown. I think would be a great thing to bring
Oh yeah.
to film.
Or
Um,
yeah, or a TV show or something like that. Because I mean, you could do like fairly X-Files but go in even more different directions with that kind of thing. But I think they have a hard time with and that maybe points to why they did like a well-known name like Joker with this particular project, because like you got like the Dead Boy Detective show on Netflix was fantastic.
yeah, I
I
liked
thought
it
it
a
was
lot.
great. One season gone, and I don't think I think you had people that had no idea it was connected in any way to DC or comics or anything like that, or Sandman. And then you had other people that did, and that brought them in. So, when it first came out or first started, it did pretty well. It
Hmm.
got pretty good viewing, but I think maybe it just got too deep or too heavy for some folks. I don't know, but
Yeah,
I thought it was really good.
because they announced it's not coming back for a second season. So
Yeah.
Taylor says, "I'll see your Jodorowsky and raise you a Yorgos Lanthimos, Legion of Superheroes." Oh,
Ooh.
we're pulling out these like auteur directors.
So Taylor, who does Emma Stone play in that Legion? Because they're on a roll. She's going to be in there somewhere.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, Joker. If you're gonna go see it, I would suggest you probably go this week because it may not be around after this week. Maybe one more week. But yeah, otherwise look for it uh, on HBO Max soon. So
Yeah.
I think the strike affected more than has been seen. Yeah, that could actually be as well too. Though
Yeah, that
Emma
probably plays
Stone will
into
be
it as
bouncing.
well.
Emma Stone will play Bouncing Boy. That would be
I'd
all right.
probably go see that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Kyle said he'll be back when we talk about Superman and Lois. But let's he said he'll be right back, so we won't talk about it yet. Let's
Okay.
go to did you see Agatha this week?
I did. I saw it while I was working. I was kind of back and forth. I watched it on the sneak, so I didn't catch all the different nuances, but I enjoyed it. I'm enjoying that show. I liked that we saw kind of that Agatha is how she is. She comes by it honestly.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of inherited her mother's power trip, kind of thirst for power thing. We've seen that she's been through some horrible just horrible things. That's kind of made her the way she is. And, interesting little journey. It was interesting to see her. Do we know for sure if her powers are back or not?
Yeah.
There was a lot happened this time around, this last episode.
Yeah, I watched it. Probably wouldn't be watching it if it wasn't for this show. It it was my favorite of the episodes so far because it was the shortest.
Yeah, and they covered a lot, and they covered a lot of ground, so it felt even shorter. I mean, they covered a lot with backstory and history as well as here and now and so forth. So, yeah.
Right. As opposed to AR says this was his least favorite because it was so short.
Yeah.
That's what happened to the Protector. Yeah. For those of
I'm
you,
digging it. It's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun performances. You have, I do like, just like any other show I watch, I kind of scrutinize on certain things. Like they had a big thing at the beginning of this episode where they talked about the whatever they are, the hordes, the demons or whatever can be coming because we left the gate open. We distinctly saw Agatha close the gate when she went in. So what? Are you sure? Or is there a metaphysical side of that gate we didn't see because we physically saw her pull it shut?
Right.
So I don't know, things like that. But that's TV. That's things,
right.
Happen like that.
For those who don't know, the seven sisters of Salem, or whatever they call themselves, right, had made their way to the road. They are now on the road trying to get to Agatha and everyone else. Meanwhile, they end up obviously they have to end up in another house because that seems to be the par for the course is they're going to end up in another house with another theme. This one seems to be early 80s Olivia Newton-John, let's get physical type thing.
Interesting. The original house at the beginning of the show that Agatha is in, her house, is the actual Bewitched house. They refurbished parts of it, but it's the actual Bewitched house, which I thought was an interesting piece of synergy.
Oh, okay. I was really hoping Audrey Plaza would turn out to be the Shadow King or character from the Legion TV show, but it's looking that's not the case. Yeah, that's not the case.
I don't think that would happen.
But they end up on the run from the demons, the seven sisters of Salem, whatever. They end up actually. We see for the first time all of these witches actually now take to a not really a broom, but it's basically a stump, a branch. They end up flying branches through there until they can't fly anymore, and they end up again landing in front of this house. They have to go into the house. The sisters are outside, but lo and behold, who shows up? But Agatha's mother shows up.
Evandora, or however they say it.
Yeah, exactly. Looking to get her revenge, saying that all of these people must stop Agatha. Agatha has to die. She goes through. She inhabits Agatha, and then she leaves Agatha, and then at one point Agatha actually draws the energy from, I can't think of the character's name now, the Protector, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Lucy? No. What's that? I'm trying to keep track. I don't know all the different ones, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to drive me crazy.
Exactly. So she takes all of her mystical energy out of her. She's left dead at the end of the episode, and they managed to figure out what it was they needed to do to solve that particular riddle that was in there, or that particular puzzle or trial, whatever you want to call it. And the stairs open and off Agatha goes, and assuming everyone else will be following her. So that's kind of where it ended.
But what about with the reveal with the our Funko Pop spoiler came out.
Absolutely. We don't get the name, but we actually see at the very end of the episode, we see Joe Locke's character ends up with the little, whatever you call it.
He's got a very Scarlet Witch looking headdress or crown.
Headdress. Right.
Yeah. And he's got his eye makeup back too, which is
right. Which would indicate that he is in fact Wanda's son.
Yeah. She pushes at him, and she says, "You're so much like your mother," or something like that.
She does, yep.
And that kind of sends him into a little bit of a rage, and and then it's revealed there he is.
Right.
No.
So we'll see what happens, but that's where the episode ended, with that reveal of
Yeah.
Joe Locke's character.
Yeah.
So
I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, I like I said, I'm enjoying it. It's not anything too deep. It's got a little bit of a soap opera feel to it, like we talked about. It's Desperate Housewives with witchcraft, and I'm okay with it.
Sharon, that was her name, Sharon. I really hope they bring back
there it
Sharon.
is.
I want to see her in the next Big Avengers team up in the background, flying and shooting energy blasts. So Frog's gonna say, "I dig Agatha if you remove episode 4." So. All right.
That was fun. Yeah.
On to the Penguin.
Okay, but I do think it's funny how you said I would not be watching the show if not
For this
if
show.
not for this show. It's like
Right.
it's like what is man, Mark's rough on you, man. He makes you watch things you don't want to see.
You know, but to be fair, I have made him read lots of comics that he didn't want to read for DC Comics Deep Dive. So,
Fair enough.
and because because I've spent more than one of these episodes where everyone was talking about a movie and I was just a blob in the corner,
Right.
in the corner
What?
square that didn't say
Don't-
anything. So at least this way I can kind of talk semi-intelligently, as intelligently as I can. So
Yeah.
the Penguin.
Penguin. This may have been my favorite episode so far. Probably because it was more of a Victor focused episode. You know?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And it starts with we don't realize that it's actually in the past until we see the flood.
Right. I mean, that was very abrupt, and it took me a minute to go, wait, what is happening? You know, like why did they just skip right over that? And then I was like, was I like watching the recap and I missed something from last episode? And then, but it all came around. But I liked that it was an episode focused on him. I do. I think we're seeing, Oz is just continuing to play his game, which is, he's not playing both sides. He's playing every side that he can find just to keep himself, above water and alive,
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I like how they throw in the bits and pieces where he talks about the way he see things playing out and what's going to happen. And eventually he'll be running this whole, city. He'll be running the whole thing. So like he still has that belief. He still has that delusion or illusion that he's going to come out ahead in all of this by backstabbing every single person. Eventually he will end up on top. And it's just fun to see if that plays out that way.
Sure.
I also like that they're leaving it fairly ambiguous as to whether he sincerely has a connection or concern with Victor, or if he's just one more chess piece for him to be able to manipulate. Like you get these little interactions and these little pieces between the two of them where you think this is one person that he is now sincerely connected to in some way, and he wants to do good by this kid, or he wants to teach him, but then you have immediately something else happens, and it's just like, no, it's really all just about him, and this is just another person he can guilt, manipulate, or trick into doing what he wants. So I like that they're doing that they're building that,
Right. Right.
So
yeah, so I have to say, Legion of Comics reviews of Agatha the last few weeks have been pretty kind.
Yeah, well, we're going to go back and do a retro She-Hulk review here too,
Exactly.
just so I can, and I'll speak for Mark on that.
Exactly.
No,
Hey,
I don't.
Yeah. So the story starts. The episode starts with we see Victor talking to his girlfriend. He basically they plan to meet up a little bit later. He says he's got to run upstairs first, and so he goes up. She goes off. He goes upstairs, and they we meet
We get to
Victor's
see
mother.
his family.
We see his family, everything in there. And then he says he needs to go off. He needs to go off and see some people. And so he meets his girlfriend on a roof, and suddenly there's like an explosion in the background, and we kind of had led to believe when it first goes off that maybe it's some fireworks or something that are just going off, but we then see it's actually an explosion, and then we see a closer explosion, and then we see one more explosion on the bridge, and suddenly you see all the
Several
water
throughout the
coming in.
city.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We see all the water flooding the city, so it's tying in directly to the end of the Batman. Um, and they can see his apartment where his family lives from the top of the building that they're at, and he sees that basically they're being flooded out.
Yeah,
And so he's kind of
he tries to call his mom, and you can see as they're looking at that window, you can see down below that the water is just taking out the bottom of that building basically where they are, because there's several stories up, and that that's just coming down, you know.
right, exactly, and that's important because it really is. We come to find out that only he and of the characters, only he and his girlfriend survived. That everyone else that they knew had basically perished.
Yeah.
And so we then go and we see we see Victor with Oz, and we see I can't think of her name now. The girl. The girl crime boss, the daughter there.
Oh, the
Um,
Falcone.
yeah, the Falcone daughter,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They're together.
Sophia.
Sophia, yes, Sophia. They go visit this place that is growing mushrooms, and Oz says basically, you know what? You can buy mushrooms on any corner in Gotham.
Right.
We
Any
don't need
college
mushrooms.
dorm.
Right, exactly. Any college dorm. And so she says, no, this is special. And she shows that on each the top of every mushroom, there's this red liquid kind of, or gel almost kind of like a
Yeah.
thing. And it
I love
basically,
I love that whole scene where they go in there and he's like, well, you can get mushrooms anywhere. And the scientist guy is like, these are hydrosylla blah, 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 blah. And he says, what the do you say to me?
yeah,
Like, he like rolled off some Latin and I was just like, what did you just say to me? But I like that, Vic. They're like, don't touch it. Don't touch it. You could throw off the whole ecosystem, and
right,
blah 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 blah. And then as he's asking more questions, they walk around the corner, and Sophia's just like snap and just pulls one off and goes, "These are different mushrooms." I was like, "Hey, what happened with don't touch the whole ecosystem?"
right.
She just grabbed it and was showing it to him. But they show that whatever it is, some kind of spore on top of the fungus that they're able to harvest for their new bliss drug or whatever. It's a a euphoric
Right.
Something or other. So
Right. And so Oz's plan is to go and have a meeting with the head of the triad.
and the triads.
The triads. And so he goes there with Sophia.
Where they meet a lieutenant, because they don't have a really connection with the head.
Right.
So one of these lieutenants that, he says he has a relationship with, which really he just owes the dude money.
Right.
That's the relationship.
Right. And Sophia apparently also has, or her family has a relationship with the triads. That is, kind of mucking up the waters as well. But they basically they agree to sell the triad. So they do it in a nightclub to start to see how much they can make. And Victor is given before this or between this, Victor and his girlfriend now. His girlfriend has decided she's going to take a bus and get out of Gotham.
Yeah,
and
she's going to California.
She's going to California, and she wants him to go. And he agrees to go, but he doesn't know how he's going to tell Oz that he leaves. Because if you know anything about crime families, is once you're in, you can't leave, right? And so he's driving, and he's like, he's just going to kill me. He's going to kill me. He's just going to kill me.
I like that whole rehearsal scene he did in the car. I'd never snitch.
He is he's in Oz's car. There's a quick scene with where they're inside, Oz and Sophia are inside. He's in the car. A cop pulls up behind them. This is just kind of to show that still, even the police are corrupt.
Right.
He basically pulls up behind Victor. Tells Victor to get out. Victor is worried because he has a whole duffel bag of this bliss in the
Right.
back seat. And so he's worried that he's going to get found out. And so, um,
He also had just gotten paid by
correct.
Oz, so he had a wad of cash in his jacket.
Exactly. He decided he's gonna Oz is gonna pay him $1,000 a week,
A week.
and he says, and then Oz says, you know what, when you want something, you gotta ask. And Victor says 2,000 a week, and
I'd
Oz
like
says, don't push
2,000 a
it.
week. Right.
So he has his $1,000, and as the cop is searching Victor, he finds the $1,000, and he's like, what are you doing? What is a kid like you doing with all this money? So we think everything's going to be exposed. Victor knows how Gotham works now.
Yeah.
Victor says, I don't have $1,000.
He's like, I don't know what money. I don't have any money.
Yeah. And the cop says, yeah, you're right. Yeah, and he walks off with $1,000
Yeah.
and leaves Victor alone. So,
Yeah. So he's learning.
right.
I think, interestingly enough, and I want to watch it back, but I think as short as it was, the prior to the flood scene that we saw, like up on the rooftop and with his family and so forth, Victor didn't have any kind of stutter. You
Yeah.
know, he did not have any kind of stutter. And then later, that whole scene with his girlfriend in Oz's apartment, talking to her, he did not have any stutter. As soon as he got in those kind of situations of authority or uncertainty, that's when the stutter comes up.
Right.
And I thought that's very interesting, like kind of a way to play it in there, that how trauma can affect people. Is just kind of a neat little addition they threw in to kind of flesh the character out a little bit.
Right. We find that Victor is being texted by his girlfriend saying that their plan is to meet at the bus station. She's texting him, "Are you coming? Where are you coming? I can't wait to see you." All that good stuff. He drives to the bus station, but when the decision is there to finally be made, he decides to stay in Gotham. Lets his girlfriend go off to California, and as he's driving back, he finds Sophia and Oz. Basically looking down the barrels of some guns. And he decides what he's going to do is he's going to basically take that nice purple car that he has,
Maserati,
the Maserati, and drive it directly into one of the guys that's holding the guns on him. So,
and these are the Triad guys, right? Weren't they meeting?
Yeah.
Or was
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he decides he's just gonna pull right into the middle of the party, so to speak, and run one of these guys.
Right. Oz jumps into the car, starts to drive off. Victor says, "What about Sophia?" And he's like, "Forget about her."
Yeah, just go, just leave her.
Right.
Yeah. Again, that's just, and that's kind of where they leave us.
Right.
And who knows? Like, how's he going to get out of that one? Like, how's he going to get back in her good graces? Just leaving her behind like that. So there's either something going to be next episode where he goes back, or I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Exactly.
Or they just become enemies from here on out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. But this was one of my favorite episode. So Mark says it was definitely the best episode. The scene where Oz defends Vic's honor with the waiter. Explains about having self-worth was a whole. It really was.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, I really like the relationship they're building with the two of them, and that kind of ambiguous nature of whether it's real or just another puzzle piece. I think the kid that plays Victor is fantastic. I think he does a great job of straddling that line of, he knows he doesn't really want to be in this life, but there's things that draw him to it. And also, it's just him now. So he doesn't really, what does it really matter? He does a lot. I think he's really well done, whoever that young actor is. I'm enjoying all of the performances in this, this one here, like I said, I think it gave us more depth than the last couple of episodes, where it's not just, okay, this isn't just a mobster, Sopranos rip off type of thing. This is something they're trying to build a little more relationship and depth within, which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you new episode is actually airing right now on HBO.
That's right.
It'll be on HBO Max tomorrow, so that's probably when I will be watching it. So, but yeah, it is really good. It is one of the best things on television right now. Also, one of
Yeah.
the best things on television right now is on the thumbnail behind us is Superman and Lois is back.
Man,
So,
man,
did you see that?
I did, and it's like these first two episodes are heavy, man.
Yeah.
they're heavy, and I thought they do too. Also, kind of with the recap at the very start, they do a great job of catching you up if you haven't been into the other seasons. You can jump right into this and
Mhm.
immediately feel the weight of where they are in the situation. I've been watching it all the way through, so
Mhm.
for me, I knew that, like, I was like, how are they going to start this season and not have it be like a serious bummer or a serious, and it's not necessarily a bummer, but it's heavy.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it leaves you wondering where things are going to go. So yeah,
Mhm.
I loved it. I'm like, okay, I'm definitely all in to see where the rest of this goes.
Yeah, this was, if you recall, where we left the end of the last season was um, Lex has created Doomsday basically from Bizarro, like a Bizarro Doomsday
Yeah.
type of a thing, and sent him out to destroy Clark. Um, and he says something, and I had forgotten about this, but they show it in the recap. They say, "Bring me his heart."
Yeah.
They made a point to keep that in the retrospective of the last season. Um, so they start battling first on the streets of Smallville, and then they all take off, and now they're on the moon. And we ended at the end of the last season with both of them flying towards each other, and that's really where the episode ended. The episode was very heavy. Yeah, the flashbacks. I mean, we flash back to different points in Lois and Clark's life,
Life. Yeah.
um, and we see different things, and it definitely gave it a lot of gave it so much heart. I see what you did there, Mark. Um,
Nice.
um, so so the battle is going on. We see the battle. We also see people running for their life because there's lots of things going on everywhere. Um, you know, Lois and the boys are there. Um, he basically, they're obviously nervous for their dad. We see the fight going on. They both get in, a bunch of different blows to each other.
Yeah.
We finally see one where Doomsday kind of, comes in and kind of clocks Clark into the moon, into the moon and everything. So, meanwhile, Lex has bought the hotel across the way from the Smallville Gazette. So he has bought that, and he's looking to buy some more stuff as well. Um, he bought it under a shell company. We find out because Alana Lang Mayor Lang, did not realize that it was
Who it was. Yeah.
that Lex had bought the paper, or
Would
she
not have
wouldn't
approved.
have sold it to him. Right, exactly. Um, we see in the first episode, it was two episodes. It wasn't a 2-hour show. It was actually episode 1 and episode 2
Episode
that
2,
they
right.
showed. So in episode 1, we go back to Sam Lane as well. He is, if you recall, at the end of the last season, he was captured.
He was
He was
kidnapped or something,
kidnapped,
right? He's the
exactly, right.
general.
He
Yeah.
basically was snookered by a woman who he thought he was going to be dating, and she ended up working for Lex, and that's how they got Sam Lane. Um, she kind of at one point kind of makes it as though she might have some sympathies for him, but those go away really quickly, really
Right.
quick. So
Right.
we see.
But she does, like, isn't she the one that eventually reveals kind of where he is?
Right.
Like where she's stored him away.
Well,
But that wasn't necessarily out of sympathy. That was
right. She just, I think, what happens is she reveals, but she doesn't do it on purpose.
right.
His son John hears her voice and says that's the girl that he was with that night.
Right.
And so they kind of, because Lois tells her son, you need to search for your grandfather's voice. Search for your grandfather's voice. And so he does that. He can't hear him because he has tape over his mouth at one point. And then later on, he's actually buried. And so, but then he hears the voice of the girl that he was with. And so
yeah.
that's where they end up at it's like a junkyard or something, I think, probably looks like,
Yeah.
almost. And that's where they find Sam Lane, and they manage to get him out, and do that. So, meanwhile, all of this stuff is going on with Clark on the moon, and at one point, Jonathan says, and this reminds me, goes back to actually, if you go back to Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, World Without a Justice League, Tom King wrote the Superman one, and he basically says, you know what? Jonathan Kent says, I can hear my father's heart, right? In that book. And that's the first thing I thought of, because in this episode, Jonathan Kent says, I can't hear his heartbeat anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when he said that, it brought me back to that was the best of the World Without a Justice League.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just, I mean, it's just such a powerful line too, to have someone say, I can't hear his heartbeat anymore. And so we find out Doomsday comes back. He basically drops Clark in the middle of Smallville with his back. He drops him so that his back is towards Lois and Jonathan and his other son. I can't think of his other son's name now.
Jordan.
Jordan, yes, sorry. And then he takes off, goes to Lex. Lex says, did you bring me what I asked for? And he opens his hand and he has Clark's heart there.
Yeah.
And he puts it into some sort of a glass or a steel box or whatever.
Yes, that's the box that he commissioned from Milton Fines.
Yep.
Which is an alias, and as he was told, it was created by this brainiac named Milton Fines.
Right.
So there's a little drop there, a little tease, and so it's like, could we be getting Brainiac?
You never know.
In some way.
Brainiac's everywhere nowadays.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting because Milton Fines is a known alias from the comics.
Yep.
So thought that was pretty cool. Little drop in.
Superman lying in the center of the street. Lois runs up to him. When she pulls him over, she sees that he's missing his heart. Screams.
Yeah.
Blood-curdling scream, basically.
Very well done.
Yeah, absolutely. The surprise, but also the surprise in their voice, but also the sheer horror of what she's seeing.
Yeah.
Captured so well. And then, his two sons come up as well. And then we get, I think that was pretty close to the end of episode 1. In episode 2, it is a lot about Jonathan trying to get back at Lex Luthor and to find his heart. Because, one more thing happened. At the end of episode 1, Jonathan or is it at the beginning of episode 2? Either way, Jonathan flies his body to the Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah. That's end of 1, I think.
Okay, end of 1. They put his body into this stasis chamber or whatever. The hologram of Clark's mother is there. She doesn't know if she can bring him back, but she pretty much says, she's going to need his heart if she's going to do anything. They don't actually say that on screen, but they kind of imply it. That they would at least need the heart if they're going to try to bring him back. So, so the episode 2 is all about Jonathan trying to get back at Lex, but also trying to get his father's heart back. And of course, Lex Luthor.
All right, we've taken a swerve here.
Broke out a wrestling match in the middle of it. Lex Luthor. He is like 3 steps ahead of everybody. So he has plans upon plans. And we basically have an episode of Lois's Choice, for lack of a better term. If you've ever seen the movie Sophie's Choice, this one is Lois's Choice. Um,
Yeah.
Lex, while Jordan is planning with little Lana's daughter to go into his the hotel that he had bought while
Right.
he's in the diner across the street to try to find the heart. Jonathan is searching the junkyard or whatever and all of the different containers to try to find
Shipping containers, right?
shipping containers to try to find it. Um, and so as they're doing it, he is basically Lex is basically running two different schemes. He basically calls Lois's phone, and it says it's from Clark. She answers the phone. It is Clark's voice, but it basically is saying, you can save one of your children. Which one is it going to be? Is it going to be Jordan, or is it going to
Or
be
it could be
John?
Jonathan.
Because Jordan is about to be found out. We think it's about to be found out in the hotel room. Meanwhile, Jonathan is about to be surprised at where all those shipping containers are. Um, they basically use this sonic type of a thing to really kind of just when it looks as though Jonathan may be able to escape. Even with they have like kryptonite rays. It's funny because they intersperse Jonathan getting hit with these kryptonite rays
Kryptonite rays, right?
with his father getting hit by these kryptonite rays, but still getting up and fighting on and doing whatever and doing whatever he
Right.
needed to
Pushing.
do,
Yep.
pushing through, ready to basically, his eyes turn red. He's about to, zap him with his eyes, and just as he's about to do that, we get this screeching noise that is basically the sonic thing that Lex has that basically causes Jonathan to fall to the ground. Basically puts him out. Doesn't make him unconscious, but he's unable to do anything because the noise is just so overwhelming. Probably
Right.
because he's still learning all of his powers. Obviously, he doesn't know how to control his hearing yet.
Yeah.
And so as he's doing this, Lex says, "This is what you came for." He says he takes out Clark's heart. We think it's Clark's heart. We're led to believe that it's
We're supposed to
Clark's heart. Maybe,
believe that.
maybe it's
Right.
not. Who knows? But we're led to believe it's Clark's heart. He drops it on the ground, and he says, "I just have one more thing to do," and he stomps on it.
Dumps on it.
So again, just heartbreaking, and you can see John. All of his hope just went out of him
Drains.
when
Yeah. It
that
just
when that
drains right
happened.
out of him.
Right.
Yeah. It was hard. It's harsh.
Yeah, it really is.
There's no love at all between this Lex and Clark.
Yeah.
No hint of ever being childhood buddies or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's brutal. I mean, it's brutal.
Yeah, it really was. There was just so much. Let's see what we got here by Noel. DCU New York Comic Con's weekend, October 7th. Yep. Full
Yep.
slate. Creature Commandos. Yep. Superman, Supergirl, Women of Tomorrow, Lanterns, Peacemaker, Season 2. The rest of the slate do it. James Gunn. We haven't even gotten to the Green Lantern stuff. We're going to do that next.
Oh man,
So
I'm so hyped for that.
exactly. So that's kind of, I think, Lex was also looking to buy another piece of property that Lana seems to know he's trying to buy and is going to try to block him from buying it. So that may come up in the upcoming weeks as well. But then we have the whole scene with Clark's mother calls them all to the Fortress of Solitude and
Yeah.
says, "There's something that my son wanted to say to you all if this situation ever happened." And it basically is, so we're going to continue to see Tyler Hoechlin,
Right.
but for the immediate future, he's going to be a hologram
that same hologram.
inside of the Fortress of Solitude. And he does this whole thing where it's the three of you now. You have to take care of each other. I'll be here to help you as much as I can, type of a thing. But
Right.
it was just pulled at your heartstrings.
Oh yeah, it was brutal. It was brutal. It just, but so well done. It's just, I mean, it's like I can see why the CW couldn't continue with a budget like this, but everything. I mean, some people may think it's cheesy or schlocky or whatever. I don't know. I think the performances are fantastic. I get it. It's superheroes and so forth, but it feels very real. The stakes are obviously real, but this family, this relationship this family has built, these actors do such a good job of just making it feel very believable and very real. And especially when you get into 2 episodes like this that are just brutal, that, like you talked about that scream when she flips him over and that scream she lets out is like, yeah. I felt that.
I mean, all last season. I mean, it's Superman and Lois, but the most gut wrenching part of the whole last season was Lois with her cancer battle going on.
Right.
It was it really had nothing to do, and the fact how Clark just felt so hopeless, so helpless, being able to help her.
Right. All this power, and there was nothing he could do.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just so well done.
Yep. So episode 3 tomorrow night, 8 p.m. on the CW, or on the CW app the next day. Because that's where I had to watch it, was on the CW app, because my TV channels were in 24/7 coverage of the hurricane.
What?
So
and I'll say this real quick as a note, just because we've been talking about these other things, and we're going to talk about Absolute Batman, I'm sure, but this show, the Superman and Lois, is the most DC show, the most Superman show, or of any of these other things. Penguin it's got the branding for Batman, Gotham, and so forth. Joker has that branding. This is the real deal DC, at least from my perspective. This is just, it's so well done. It's so like I watch this show and I go, that's where I worry for like James Gunn with doing the Superman movie. As like, because they're giving us a pretty daggone great Superman for 4 seasons, or 3 seasons, and then the one coming forward, and it's going to be, as a long time comic book person, this is so well done that it makes me worry for what he's going to be able to do in the movie.
Right. Family dynamic is really what sets it apart. Absolutely. So, okay, let's jump to speaking of movies. This is actually another TV show, actually, but Aaron Pierre. We had 2 confirmations this week.
Yeah.
The first being that Aaron Pierre is about to play Jon Stewart. And then we had the other confirmation is that this was kind of hinted at last week, but Kyle Chandler will be playing Hal Jordan as well. And then we have, and I can't think of the actor's name now. Who is the actor that's playing Guy Gardner? Like,
Nathan Fillion.
Nathan Fillion. Yeah, he will be playing. Huge news. I know Mark was head over heels with Aaron Pierre, because
I'm right there with him.
A one-man hype machine for Aaron Pierre.
I could not be happier. I'm telling you, since they started talking about this things, and they said it was going to be kind of a True Detective riff, but with the magical rings, but it was going to be like a partnership between these 2 characters. I was like, right from the get-go, I was like, Kyle Chandler. Kyle Chandler would be my pick for Hal Jordan. Friday Night Lights is probably one of my favorite shows of all time. The first season of that show is a perfect first season of a show, in my opinion. Nobody's going to trade me for that. I could watch Kyle Chandler read a phone book and be perfectly entrapped and enraptured. I think he's fantastic, and I thought he would be perfect.
I loved him way back when he was doing our early edition.
Oh yeah, and Homefront before that. Yeah, he's always been great. But I mean, Friday Night Lights made me just lock into how talented this dude is. And I thought, they maybe won't go that old because he's getting older, but they did. and I was stoked. And then I was right there with Mark after I watched that, whatever the Rebel Ridge or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! When I
You
saw
forget
that,
that
I
all
was
day
like,
long.
dude, this is Jon Stewart right here. This
And
dude is Jon Stewart.
right. And getting back to Kyle Chandler real quick, he's in the MonsterVerse too, right? He was in the movies,
Oh yes,
the MonsterVerse
Godzilla.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
He's been
um,
all over. I mean, and he can take small parts. I mean, he's one of the, Wolf of Wall Street. He's one of the best parts of that. The small part he had in Argo. He's
mhm.
fantastic. He just does the most with whatever he's given, and he's just. I'm excited. I'm very excited for this show.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
hoping it doesn't
Aaron
hit any
Pierre is
hiccups.
just, I haven't seen Rebel Ridge, but I do want to see it, but I haven't had a chance to see it yet. But um, you
You
definitely
know,
can't get someone
people.
to me that,
He just has a presence.
yeah.
About him. Um, the Rebel Ridge is just it's just fun. It's not anything super deep to it. But and as young as he is, and for that's the first time I've ever seen him. I hadn't seen him in anything else, but he has a level of just like gravitas that it's like that movie does not come off as cheesy or you know hokey or anything like that. It's grounded, and he is really good. And I'm telling you, I watched it. I was like, that is Jon Stewart. That is who I would like to be Jon Stewart, please.
I can't wait to see their on-screen chemistry. Kyle has so much natural charisma, and Aaron has that serious Marine attitude perfectly.
Yeah.
It's going to be epic. Mark will be
Yeah.
going, let's fucking go.
Heck yeah.
He'll be doing right now.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. He says exactly. John was even a Marine in Rebel Ridge. Yes, Kyle plays Dr. Mark Russell in the Multiverse as well as in The Father and Super 8.
Yeah.
Yep,
Oh
exactly.
yeah,
Yep.
the father in Super 8. Yeah.
hmm
Yep.
Yeah, he's in
But
so
like
many
in
different things.
and it's interesting because I believe he's French, right? Aaron Pierre's French.
It certainly sounds like it.
Yeah, I mean his accent. You would not know he has an accent, but when he's not in the film, when I've seen interviews with him, I'm like, oh, he really is French.
He has a presence.
Yeah, he really does. And it's not just his size,
Mhm.
or the fact that his jaw looks like it was carved out of some kind of stone. He just has something, and the way he carries himself and the way he talks. I'm excited. I'm very excited.
That's right. So excited he's blowing train whistles.
And yeah, right on. And a lot of people go, oh, they're just fan casting. They're just going by what the fans say. Like, it's like, come on. The people that make these shows are fans too. You don't think they saw him in Rebel Ridge and went,
Right.
holy crap, we may have found our Jon Stewart. They're not looking at Twitter or whatever else and going, oh, these people think he'd be good. That's stupid. These people, they probably have the same exact thoughts. They see him and they go, that's a fit right there.
Right. Plus, I don't think that fan casting is necessarily such a bad thing sometimes either.
No.
Yeah. Oh, they hired someone that everybody wants to be a character.
Right. Exactly.
Hello, duh. They're looking to make money. If they think that that's who people want to see in that movie,
right?
Why wouldn't you hire him?
And the person can do a good job.
Yeah,
they've got
exactly.
the skills. Let's go for it.
Yeah, it's not like they hired Jack Black to play Green Lantern.
Right. Right. Well, they got people that are freaked out about who they hired for Booster Gold. So,
right. Yeah, exactly. That has never actually been confirmed, though. I don't think, though, right?
I don't know if it has or not.
I don't think it has. It has. But yeah, good things. Coming up real soon, we got Creature Commandos is out on Max in a week or two, I believe. I think, right?
Yeah. And we had a book this week, right? Didn't the Creature Commandos book drop this week? Last week. Okay.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Which was really good. We talked since we didn't talk about it last week, but did you? You haven't read it, right?
I have not. No.
It was done really well. It ends with Brainiac, and it's like we just got through with Brainiac and everything in the House of Brainiac, and then Queen Brainiac, and it's like I think Brainiac needs to be put on the shelf for a little while, and
yeah,
and bring him back out in a little while.
But he's gonna pop up in Superman and Lois.
Exactly, but he's gonna pop up in Superman. But that's okay if he's in a TV show. Um, but yeah, if you're a Star Trek fan, the latest trailer for Star Trek Lower Decks came out this week.
Oh, right
Um,
on.
it starts, I think, October 24th, I believe, the fifth and final season. Really looking forward to that. I know AR is looking forward to that as well. So yeah,
Nice.
want to talk about a couple books, or at least one
Yeah, I
anyway.
told you I only picked up one. I made sure to catch the important one, so I picked up this cover
Yep, that's
because that was
yeah, that's the Nick
literally
Gerard thing.
the last one that was in the LCS when I went in there.
Right.
I asked them, I said, do you have any of the other covers? They were like, no, that's the last one we have. You told us you were coming, so we set it aside.
Oh, that's nice. That was nice.
I was like, okay, appreciate that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, the Absolute Universe is here. It is basically a universe that Mark actually posted something about its origins.
yeah.
It actually does go back kind of to death metal, all the way back to
Yeah.
death metal. So
Dark
Scott
Metal.
Snyder has been planning this for a while now. It goes back to death metal, where there is the Elseworld is created, and that's basically the Absolute Universe. Is
Yeah.
the Elseworld. So, but we see the first Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Superman are in the All-In special that came out not this past week, but the week before. And Absolute Batman is just taking the comic world by storm. It's already up. It has the second printing hasn't even come out yet, and it's already up to a third printing.
It's
So
crazy.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
crazy. And I didn't even make this connection. Like if you look at Mark's Instagram, where he puts those panels out there and he
Mhm.
talks about that connection between, the death metal and that Elseworld, him talking about that.
Mhm.
I went in from the get-go, and this comes back to what I was saying before in terms of the Superman and Lois feeling like real DC to me, as a viewer and as a long time. That feels like a real DC show. Um, Penguin, Joker, they have the trappings of, Batman and Gotham and so forth. And I went into this with the same kind of attitude, to have zero expectations of my kind of thoughts on what Batman is, who Bruce is, and so forth. That being said, like this could be a completely different character.
Mhm.
I understand why they're doing it this way with the All-In. I've had a lot of frustration for a while just because it feels like DC is all over the place and can't figure where they want to settle. We've had event after event after event, and not just these opportunities to kind of just have some long character focused runs of books, you know, um, which is what I like,
Right.
but they've been having just event after event after event. And so you kind of have to just turn your brain towards, what, these are just stories. These are just explorations of these different characters, or even just the trappings of these different characters. And once you do that, if you let that go and let any of your preconceived notions go, you can get something like this, and it's just a well woven story.
Mhm.
So I like Scott Snyder. I like how he writes. I like what he does. I'll be interested to see where the other books go if they're as strong.
Right.
But I do think it's smart that they started with this one.
Mm. I wish the Creature Commando's big bad guy had something to do with, I don't know, monsters. Um, so yeah, and I totally get your point. I mean, because you kind of get event fatigue in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But it seems as though, at least anyway at the onset, All In seems like it's going to give you kind of what you're looking for. As far as I can see, as of right now anyway, there is no event on the horizon for DC.
Right. But it's very easy to read this and go, well, that's not That's not Batman.
Mhm.
That's not the Batman I know. So this is an event, or it's an Elseworld, or it's a Black Label, or it's something else. But it's not my, so I see how people can kind of get caught in that trap. But I think you have to let a lot of that go and just enjoy what's there and just say, okay, I'm in for this journey. You know, if you get the others, if we get to the others, we get to Superman, we get to Wonder Woman and all that. If they're not written as well,
Mhm.
you know, uh, they might not hold up as well. But he's absolutely right. I got so much event fatigue, as you said, that I was like, I'm not buying these. Thankfully, I just won them all from you. So, I got to read them and follow along.
Mhm.
But I was like, they're changing this. This is going to here and then to this event. I was like, I can't afford all of that.
Mhm. Right.
Luckily, my comic book dad hooks me up when when the wheel of fate decides to be nice to me. And I appreciate you, sir, very much.
So this Batman, it is Bruce Wayne. He is basically he is not an orphan. We'll get to that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
He became Batman. He was actually at the zoo. His father was a teacher, not a doctor. His father was a teacher who took his class to the zoo. And at the zoo, there was a gunman who basically started shooting people. His father runs
Made them
everybody.
hide in the bat
Exactly. Hide in the
the
hide in the bat
exhibit. Yeah.
exhibit, right? And says, no matter what you hear, do not open this door, which is interesting because that's the exact same thing that we find Batman says to Barbara
Barbara
Gordon.
Gordon. Yeah.
Although he says it first, we then see where he got it from. That's
Yeah.
exactly what his father said to him. Exact same words. Um, and his father was killed as a result of this gunman. Um, so, but his mother was not killed because she wasn't there.
Right.
So in this universe, Martha Wayne is still alive. She is still there. Um, we find that Bruce Wayne actually seems as though he's at least friendly enough to play cards with people whose names are Eddie and Harvey
Harvey.
and Oz
Oz.
and Waylon.
Yeah. And
So Killer Croc
at
owns a
Croc's
gym,
gym. Yeah.
right? Owns a gym.
Yeah.
Um, so Bruce Wayne at least knows them socially anyway.
Yeah. He is, and he's not. Uh, he comes off more genuine, as genuinely kind of uh, parts of him that are genuinely aloof. That he's not playing a. He doesn't seem like he's playing a playboy, aloof kind of uh, himbo kind of thing, where
Right.
we've seen in the past with Bruce Wayne sometimes in some iterations. He seems like there's some genuine, like this is new. He's still genuinely learning as he goes, and he's it's just very cool, different take of where they're going with this. Just the
Getting
whole Alfred angle is
right.
just really, really cool. We've had in the past where Alfred was his butler, and then we learned that secretly he was an agent, like a badass,
Right.
and now we're just seeing that right up front.
Right.
He is some kind of counterintelligence or whatever he is, but he's got serious skills. He is not the prim and proper butler uh, on the sideline type of thing. And
Yeah.
it's like I said, they've set up so much.
Right. In
And
fact, at this point, he doesn't even know Bruce Wayne, other
right,
than he knows he's Batman. He's figured out that
right,
he's Batman, but he doesn't know. He's formally introduced to him when Batman shoots him in the chest with his gun,
yeah,
um, his own gun that he has made to not be a lethal gun. So,
yeah.
getting an ongoing Justice League title is event enough for me for now. I enjoy the heck out of the event, especially since we haven't had JLA books. They've been great fill-ins. They really have. So. AR says it's so hard to pull off impossibly cool Matrix, Crow, hackers, but this comic does it. I can't wait for more, but I also want Batmite to show up cleaning a gun or something.
And they set with this what are they called, the animal, they set the stakes pretty high from the very beginning, that they're working at a level. These aren't, this isn't a guy dressed up as a clown or a penguin or anything. This is these are seriously bad people, and they establish pretty, early on that how horrible they are and the just horrific things that they do. So they're playing at a level that we're not used to.
Right.
AR,
if you're looking for Batmite, check out the backup story in DC versus Vampires, World War V or World War V.
Or don't.
There's or don't. Jim Gordon is the mayor, basically. Let's see what else can we. That's
Harvey is the commissioner. Harvey Bullock is the commissioner, police commissioner.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're putting all the pieces together, but it's a completely, the world building they're doing is completely different.
Right.
They're just using of the same players in different.
We find out on the very last page that the Joker, we'll get to his name in a second, he is basically one of the 30th richest men on the planet. But you can't actually, he never laughs. You can't joke with him. He never laughs. That's why they call him the Joker. Because he never laughs. So that was kind of interesting as well.
Yeah,
we'll see where that goes. So
yeah, there's a lot here to be curious about. And, and like I said, it definitely pulls you in and gives you enough pieces to go, okay, I really want to see where this goes. And that's why I like I said, I really enjoyed it. I was glad I got there and got it. And I've been, it's all about the story for me. I'd have been fine with a second print or whatever, but I didn't want to wait. I didn't want to have to wait,
Yeah. And we see all the, we see he takes the bat symbol off of his chest.
Off his chest,
and makes it a battle axe, cuts off somebody's hand.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff
he ain't playing it. They show you, like I said, the stakes are higher.
He uses
not
the
playing
ears.
Around.
He can remove the ears from his cowl and throw them.
Oh my gosh, how bad! I was like, that's amazing. How has nobody ever thought of that before? Or if they have, I never saw it. But I just thought that was brilliant. I was like, yes, that makes perfect sense. He pulled the ears off and just stabbed the guy right in the solar plexus. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think in a couple weeks, not this week, but maybe next week, the week after, is Absolute Wonder Woman. Is the next, the second one to come, and then
so Wonder Woman will come before Superman.
Superman is in November. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Absolute Wonder Woman is next. So AR says, "I am so stupid. I just realized they inverted Joker in Batman's finances." So yeah, so that was the only one that you read.
That was all I picked up. Like I said, we've, my mom's been in the hospital, and thankfully he's home and doing much better. But I snuck out of there and was like, I got to get by the comic shop and grab that, and so that was the only one I grabbed.
Just a quick thing on this. This was great. Philip K. Johnson, Jeremy Adams, basically bringing the John Stewart and Hal Jordan Green Lantern stories together. Batman Boss, with his own gun that he basically managed to make non-lethal. Yeah, and then he just left him with a gun and took off. He took his motorcycle instead. So it brings the two together. We have what seems to kind of be the end of the Tharis, the Lord Tharis story, but we also bring in the Radiant story from John Stewart. So we have Guy Gardner, we have John Stewart, we have Hal Jordan, we have Shepard, who is the guy that has been running around with Guy Gardner. So we have all of them as well, and it basically ends on a huge cliffhanger. If you remember, one of the things that Tharis does is he's been able to basically manipulate lanterns and kind of move them from spectrum to spectrum. In this issue, we see him manipulate Kilowog into a yellow lantern that he uses to take the Dark Star ring from John Stewart. And then they all end up on Durlin, and everyone is exposed for who they really are. We think it's the end of Thoris, but in one last bold move, we basically he uses his power to basically turn Mogo. If you know who Mogo is, he is the Planet Lantern.
Planet. Yeah.
He turns Mogo into a Red Lantern, and that's where we end
Hmm.
the issue. So that'll be coming up in the next Green Lantern, which I think is either this week or next week. It comes real quick. Back to Green Lantern again. But All In is basically one of the uh, marching orders for All In it is a good place if you're not getting anything. If you say, you know what, I don't want to come in the middle of a story. It is a
Right.
great
Right.
jumping on point for just about every single title, because every single title kind of ended their current storylines for the most part in September, and so now everything's coming up new.
Right. Wraps everything up, and it's like some of that it was like disappointing for me because it's like you know I felt like I said, I've talked about, they've jumped around so much and they haven't landed anywhere. But you had these titles, like I felt Green Arrow was really doing something, and that team that they had writing that book and drawing that book had really kind of gelled. And I was like, I'm digging this. I'm digging the pace of it. I'm digging where it's going. But then it ended in an event. And it's kind of like, a little bit of frustration there. But I like that they've done that. They've kind of cut the cord, everything's clean, and you can go into All In, and you don't have to know any of that. You don't have to be aware. You can go back and enjoy those stories if you'd like. But if you haven't picked any of that up, you can pick this up and be at the ground floor or something,
Right.
And just get a fantastic journey ahead. It's like I said, I think that's good. That's a good move on their part. To kind of do that and say, okay, we're going to take the main line, and it's going to be different than what you've known before, but it's also going to be a brand new starting point where you don't have to feel like there's so much attachment or baggage from before. So I'm excited about that.
Right. And one of the things that happens as a result of absolute power, he's right, GL Core. Before I forget, though, one of the things he mentions is Justice League International. That's really going to be kind of the linchpin of the whole DC universe. Even in the JL Civil Core story, the Hal mentions the Green Lantern wing of the Watchtower. All
Right.
of the major groups are going to have their base in the Watchtower. The JSA is going to have their base in the Watchtower. The JLA or the Justice League, Green Lantern. So it's just amazing. So, but one of the things that happened, what I wanted to get to, is because you were talking about, not only is it new, but at the end of Absolute Power, one of the things that happens is people get their powers back. Because you recall, all of the Amazos were pulling the powers,
Yeah.
had drained the powers out of everyone. And in
Yeah.
fact,
And then
Jade Stone, who is one of the Green Lanterns, he's in the Civil Core story as well. He's the
okay.
protector of the current Green Lantern story, of the current battery. But as a result of absolute power, people getting their powers back. It's not some of the powers. Not everyone got all of their powers back. Some people got different powers back.
Yeah, some of them got mixed up.
Exactly. Someone got mixed up. Like in the Action Comics story, which came out this past week as well, we find out that Supergirl now has some sort of power to be able to manipulate people and make them forget things. And so it was, she has the hypnotic power to make people forget, or to do what she wants them to do, whatever it happens to be. So that's one of Supergirl's new powers. So they'll be exploring that as well. So not everybody necessarily just got their powers back and everything was reset to zero. And
Yeah.
more of that will come out as the stories go along. So
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Even just the little panels, where it looked like Fire and Ice had some mix up,
right.
of their powers, and somebody was, they made mention of Beast Girl. It's like,
Exactly.
what?
Yeah, Beast Girl. What? Yeah.
That's-
The Dawn of DC was a solid jumping on point. I agree with that as well. So GL is this Wednesday. Excellent. I'm looking forward to
Yeah,
that.
I thought Dawn of DC was a good jumping on point, but it just felt like it was finite. They're like, you can jump on here, but this is not going to last, but a year, and then we're going to do something completely different again. So if you got attached to those, those certain characters or those certain runs, like, I thought what King was doing on, or was it King or Taylor doing Wonder Woman?
Tom King.
Tom King. Yeah. I thought that was a great run. But that one I was a little less sad about, because I think King does better in small spurts. So, I'm not looking for a 50 issue arc from him, because he can get off track sometimes. So I thought it worked better there. But like I said, I was really digging the Green Arrow, and but I wasn't digging Flash. So I'm glad they're doing something different, and they're going.
I haven't been digging Flash either though.
Yeah. So.
But someone told me that the Wonder Woman issue this week is supposed to be really, really good. I kind of have a hint as to what it is, but yeah, if you're not reading Wonder Woman, good place to get on. So
yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Jade Stone is amazing. He's amazing. I'm glad he lasted beyond the event. Yeah, absolutely. For those who don't know, Jade Stone was the one that was basically infected. When he drew the power out of Alan Scott, he drew part of the Star Heart into him, and that caused him to have second thoughts and a conscience and all of these things, and question what he was doing and all those things. So, I'm pretty sure all women have that power. We're actually almost at the top of the hour, but some of the other things, Action Comics, great start. This is weekly now for the next 12 issues at least. Mark Waid writing it. It is basically we find some things going on in the Phantom Zone. Some things are kind of going kind of haywire. This three-headed monster comes out of the Phantom Zone, starts attacking people. We end up with Clark and Supergirl kind of fighting them. Hey, W. Voss, what's going on? We find out they're screaming something in Kryptonian. We find out later on that what they're screaming is actually "kill us," because they're in such pain. And so we end up with Clark going back into the Phantom Zone, and the last page has Clark materializing in the Phantom Zone, basically surrounded by everyone who looks like they want to kill him. So that's when we ended the first. And the backup story is Supergirl. She basically is on a mission that we see more of her powers to hypnotize people and kind of nudge them into doing what she wants them to do. So so that's kind of what the story is with that. So TK's Wonder Woman is continuing. New issue this Wednesday. Bring tissues. See, yeah, that's what I thought.
So will it keep going in tandem with the all-in version, or is it winding down?
It's still the Sovereign. The Sovereign story in Wonder Woman is supposed to run through issue number 20, I believe. So that's what I believe I read that. So yeah, so he's still got a little ways to go on that. So Geiger, this was actually the first issue of Ghost Machine that has a fill-in artist. This is Paul Pelletier. But you know what? Nice. It wasn't. It's still, even though it was Paul Pelletier, the way he lays out his panels is different than Gary Frank.
Sure.
But it's still hones very close to Gary Frankish, the art and everything. So Paul Pelletier is doing this issue and the next issue.
Nice.
So whereas
I'll have to definitely get that. Yeah. I'm loving that series, and I'm a big fan of him. When he came in, he would come in back in the day and kind of give Daryl Banks a little rest on Green Lantern, and I always just really dug his style. He seems very like he's a utility player on a baseball team. You can put him in anywhere, any style of book, any style of story, and he can step up and kind of keep the atmosphere the same and kind of the feel the same as whatever the previously established artist was doing. So I'm a big fan of Paul Pelletier. I'm excited to grab those.
Yeah, we get some mentions of other warlords that are out there in Las Vegas and everything. So looks like there's a huge war coming there as well. So it seems as though Redcoat and Rook, what they're doing there is maybe they may be skipping a month instead, as opposed to having a fill-in artist. But
Hmm.
Paul Pelletier here is great. I love him. So and yeah, I knew him too from when he would sub for Daryl Banks. So.
Yeah.
The only other one that I have is um, this is Gotham by Gaslight, the
Okay.
Kryptonian Age. Um, we get lots of Kryptonian Age DC reveals. We had already seen Alan Scott. We had already seen John Constantine. We see Superman for the first time. We see the Phantom Stranger for the first time. We see Deadshot for the first time.
Hmm.
So we see lots of different people in their first incarnation in the Kryptonian age. We see Cyborg for the first time. Um, so yeah, it's a good story. I'm really enjoying it. Can't wait to see where this goes. I think it's the longest of the Elseworlds too, of all
Yeah.
the Elseworlds that are going on. So
I picked up the first one, and I just, like I said, I just have to watch my budget. So, like this and the second iteration of the Dark Knights of Steel, whatever that is,
all
I
in there.
had to
Yeah.
drop both of those. It's just like it just was too much with so much stuff coming out, um, and I wanted to, make sure I was getting in my box all of the Ghost Machine stuff that I've just been really digging a lot. So I had to make some cuts. Um, so I'm hoping maybe that like the Gotham by Gaslight and even the Dark Knights of Steel, Kryptonian, or whatever that one's called. I'm hoping they're going to do those in collected
Oh yeah.
eventually, and I can
Yeah. I'm
pick them
sure.
up that way. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Uh, Mark's all the ongoing books post Absolute Power take place 52 days after the events of Absolute Power. Yep. So they're kind of clear of the drama, hence the good jump on point. So
yeah, right on.
uh, what a great issue we've got. Like the whole crew is there now. Yep. Exactly.
That's yeah. See, and that is going to make me very intrigued to get back into that because that's what I loved about the old Elseworld stories when they would do, and you would see just all the different kind of takes on all of these different characters. They had that Justice Riders book, where it just took a Western motif and put all of those characters into it. It was just things like that, just brilliant. So
Mhm.
I'm sure I'm gonna get pulled back into into that.
Yeah.
It's very
Um,
cool.
I also got DC versus Vampires, but it was all right. But I still have no clue why they have a Batmite backup in the last two issues, this issue and the issue before. But to me, it just makes no sense whatsoever. But that's just me.
Yeah,
I'm sure I'm missing something that is probably like right in front of my face that I just haven't been able to realize yet. But
I have
um,
not read a single one of those. My brother thought it, especially the first iteration they did. He loved it,
the first
and
one was really good.
yeah, he kept saying, "You need to read this. You need to read this." I was like, "All right, send them to me because I'm not going out and buying them." He thought they were a lot of fun, though. He really enjoyed it, so he's very happy that they're doing more. I don't know how he feels about the
It's your
Batmite stories, but
commitment, John. You can always take a second mortgage on your home.
do you know how many kids I put through college? You don't think I've already done that?
The thing that I like about, I mean, All Winter is a good story, but I'm also really digging the art. I mean, the almost black and white. That everything's black and white except when they get to Alec. The swamp thing that's in there. Then suddenly
Right.
you start to get colors and everything. And so, yeah, I'm really liking that. So, Justice Riders was a great one. So.
Yeah.
All right, we are beyond the top of the hour, so I think we covered all the books. You only had the one anyway, so
Yep.
that's all the ones that I grabbed for this particular week. So thanks everybody for joining us. Next week, hopefully Mark will have internet back by then. He dropped DC versus Vampire, not my deceased, not my deceased. Um, so, John, as always, thanks for coming on. We appreciate you.
I
Uh,
very much appreciate the opportunity. And like I said, anytime I can hang out with you, and I'm very glad that you made it through the storms that came your way last week. So
Yeah.
I was excited to be able to come back and just make
I
sure
was
that you
very
were.
lucky. But if you know anybody in the Tampa area, Tampa, Sarasota, reach out to them if you haven't to see how they're doing, because they had a lot of destruction there and everything. So,
Yeah. Well,
so
I appreciate you having me on, and I really appreciate Mark you asking me. I told Mark earlier this week, I messaged him to let him know. I said, I never realized how much of like recharging my mental health batteries and my keeping my vibes in a positive way, how much his content, your content, and everybody else's just does, that like when he's been gone, it's like, man, my whole kind of rhythm of my week is off. So it's like I need to contact somebody and say, hey, get my man back up and running down there. This is throwing me out of whack.
exactly. We're gonna have like a supersized episode of DC Comics Deep Dive when we come back, I think too. So,
Nice.
no, I guess IKEA this week. Next Wednesday, so a week from this Wednesday, guess we'll be on Brother John, Brother John and
Brother
Dale.
John,
Dale of
Dale of
Suspense will be on.
Suspense, my
So
buddy.
they will both be on. So join us a week from this particular for this Wednesday, 9:30 Eastern, over on my channel. Thank you, Mark. We appreciate you so much. So, but that's going to be it. I am Paul. I got to make sure to do this right. Last time I almost said you're now leaving Sector 2015, but it's like, but that's going to be it.
Which works.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us. I am Paul, but we are.
I'm not Mark.
Is that it? Is that all you got?